Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. So we had an awesome film board.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh,
it was just the other day.
Super awesome.
The film board assembled. We did the Avengers Age of Ultron. It was great fun. Thanks to everybody who has downloaded and listened to that. And make sure you go check out the blog because there was a call to action, apparently.
Oh, yes.
From Tommy Handsome. That he it actually wasn't even in reference to Avengers, right? Wasn't this...
Well, no, it was specifically referencing Ultron.
Oh, Right.
Because Ultron, his eyes blink and his mouth moves.
Yeah, but what was it that made Tommy want to give out little Tommy Oscars? I thought it was about Jurassic Park. When he started talking about Jurassic World, and he got so excited he wanted to start giving out little Tommy Oscars.
Oh, maybe.
Now I've forgotten, and I was there.
I forgot too. I can't remember.
Well, anyway, so there was a call to action about how great it would be if somebody would design a Tommy Oscar, and somebody did, and it's fantastic, and it's on the blog, and so you can go see it, and it's from the gracious and talented Joel Harris, who is also host of the Gracious and Talented If You Like podcast, which I've talked about before on the show. If you haven't listened to that, you should. It's a concept that just doesn't get old for me. And he went and he found a picture of Tommy Handsome. And it is inspiring. It is an award. It is for the first time. And I'm not really an awards guy. Like, I've never really been motivated by awards. I want to win a Tommy Oscar.
Everybody should want to win a Tommy Oscar.
Yes, everybody should. So I think the first step is I'm definitely going to put that on a shirt. And the second step is I'm going to try and get that made into a real Oscar. So if anybody has any experience turning an animated or a hand-drawn picture of an Oscar into a real 3D trophy, please let me know. Message me on Twitter at Pete Wright, because this is the next thing that is the most important thing in my life. I mean,
that's just fantastic.
Family, children, food, health, safety, all that, and then Tommy Oscar. But you should also read the blog, not only for the Tommy Oscar, which is up there now, but you should also read the blog for Tommy had his blog debuted. Have you read his post?
I have, and he is, it's true form for Tommy.
It is so true to form for Tommy. It was so funny. It's Tommy's take on the laws of robotics at work in Age of Ultron. And he has some, I think, astute points delivered only as Tommy Handsome could deliver them.
Absolutely.
Check him out on the blog. How's your week?
It's good. It's good. I've been watching the Disney animated films with my kids, starting at the beginning and slowly working my way through the whole chronology.
Yeah,
and we just finished Sword in the Stone, which is, it's not one of my favorites, but the kids love it. And the thing that I enjoy so much about watching these with the kids is, I have their own little flick chart accounts for each of them, and we flick chart each movie as we go. And inevitably, especially for my youngest, and I think it's just the brain of a 4-year-old, every time we watch something, that always ends up like at the top of his chart, because he just saw it. It's the freshest in his mind, so it's his new favorite. And so it cracks me up because, this is the best one. This is the best. And so it always ends up being the top. And it happens with my daughter a bit. Although, interestingly enough, Avengers Age of Ultron, she said, is her new favorite movie.
Really?
It beat out Guardians of the Galaxy, which beat out Maleficent. So yeah, now it's Avengers Age of Ultron.
That's good. That's good.
Which is funny because it's, other than Guardians of the Galaxy, it's the first one that she's really seen. And she was a barrage of nonstop questions. What is that thing doing? What is this? What is that big stick with the glowing thing on it? Oh, that's Loki's staff. And so it's like constant through the whole movie.
You won't have to worry about that for much longer.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Did you? Now I know we talked about this. You don't watch the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I don't. It's one that I'd like to, but there's just too many things.
There's too many things. That is the truth. But I just have to say that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you were ever going to watch, it's the most fun to watch immediately before and immediately after one of these tentpole movies.
Right.
Because it all ties in so well. And so I know we're recording this a few days early, and so by the time this show airs, there will be even another episode that has happened since Ultron came out. But I just have to say I really am enjoying what they're doing. And this was the first week that they actually said the word Inhumans when referring to these powered people. And so, you can just feel it now. They're building up. They're starting the long, slow build to, another major tentpole series. I know we'll have Civil War coming up, which, oh my goodness. Have you seen just how fully loaded that cast is?
No, I haven't looked at it.
Oh man, everybody's in it. It's like somebody on Twitter. I'll have to post the link. Somebody on Twitter said it's really more like Avengers 2.5 because everybody's in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It is pretty much everybody.
It's the first movie to be shot entirely. The next Avengers movies are the first shot entirely with IMAX cameras.
Yeah, but that's not Civil War, though. That's
Avengers.
Infinity War.
The Avengers movie, right. Avengers,
right, yeah.
Infinity War. Captain America, Civil War. And that's the thing that's a little bit strange. Is because Captain America is you expect it to be kind of a, what's the word? Captain America film that has actually all the Avengers in it. It's a little bit weird, but still should be very cool. And that one finally will be worth actually seeing in an IMAX theater.
They haven't announced who's playing Spider-Man yet. I don't see him on the cast list.
The new Peter Parker. No. So you have the list, the cast list right in front of you?
Well, we've got Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch, and we've got Black Widow, Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Agent 13, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, the Falcon, Baron Zemo, Martin Freeman as somebody, Crossbones, Black Panther, War Machine is rumored, General Ross is rumored as William Hurt again. So,
yeah, that's 16.
That's a heck of a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to count it. And then Spider-Man, who's not on here yet.
Spider-Man, right. I mean, they have to. And that's the thing I think people are getting upset about. And this was the general sense of this article on The Verge was, it may be too big. It's big. I don't think it's impossible to make a film that big, as proven by Ultron, which I obviously quite enjoyed. But I think I just have to keep myself in that comic mindset. These comics are at their very strongest when there are, at the extremes. Like if they're, I love the new spin-off Hawkeye comic book, which is very much, at least I haven't read a whole bunch of them, but at least when I was reading it, it was very much a sort of an intimate kind of, here's what's going on with this guy. We get to explore this guy and his world. Or at the other extreme, when all these wonderful characters get to interact in some new way. And that, I think, is what Civil War and Infinity Wars lets us sort of play with. And so I'd rather think of it as an opportunity to play in a bigger sandbox than to worry that it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's my platform. I
hope I like it. I hope it's not another. I enjoyed Ultron. I just didn't end up loving it. And I hope that I'm able to enjoy these more as they keep building.
Me too.
We'll see. Yeah.
Me too. All right. Shall we tell the people, the drill?
Yeah. Where are we from?
This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and there's Andy Nelson.
Good day.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, the third in our epic dystopian action extravaganza with George Miller's 1985 Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at The Next Reel. Subscribe on iTunes or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel as well. And if you feel like the one thing you really, really need in your gritty dystopian violent action feature film is a healthy dose of adorable children, you need to head over to Instagram.com/TheNextReel and play The Next Reel's Instagram #PonyPrize #GuessTheMovieChallenge. Andy, how did we do against the Lost Boys this week?
The Lost Boys, they kind of took us to task this week, I think.
Lost spanking.
I think it's fair to say that if we were battling the people in this dystopian future, we would have been the people who had our camel truck stolen from us.
I am so sorry to hear that.
Yes, but it's all okay. Yes, it only took 2 images. A speedy little 2 images for Bayer Malt. Or beer malt, perhaps. It's actually Byron Thompson.
This is a new person.
This is a new person, Byron Thompson, a.k.a. Bayer Malt. came in 2 images in and nailed it, got it. The answer was the wonderful film, The Best Years of Our Lives by William Wyler from 1946.
Man, that second image, that's a party in any, like, 1930, 40, 50s era film. I know. That's anything. That's people having a good time is what that is.
I am surprised that Byron was able to nail it on that image.
That was amazing.
Maybe the first image helped tip it off. The
airplane,
that great kind of warplane. But
wow,
I know.
All right.
So good old Bayer Malt is entered to win our 2015 Pony Prize.
Well played, Bayer Malt. Well played, Andy. It's time. Let's do trailers.
I heard that they were remaking Vacation. And it's not a remake of Vacation. They're continuing the Vacation story.
It's another sequel. I can't believe it.
Yeah, which is brilliant. Having young Rusty Griswold, all grown up now, played by Ed Helms, bringing his family to Wally World, taking the infamous road trip that his father took back in the original Vacation. I love the concept. I was a little skeptical about it. I mean, I love the first Vacation and the third Vacation. The second and fourth never really did much for me. Although, to be fair, I haven't seen either of them in a long time. So maybe I would enjoy them more. Maybe I would enjoy them less. I don't really know. But I really was skeptical about this one because I knew it could have been something that really just went off the rails. But I feel like they are capturing the great humor from the first Vacation, and I feel like they are taking it also to this meta filmmaking level of all these referential in-jokes, and I really just enjoy the tone of the whole thing. It's got, like I said, Ed Helms playing Rusty Griswold. His wife is played by Christina Applegate. And they've got a couple kids that 2 sons that they're bringing to Wally World. He goes to see his sister Audrey, who's played by Leslie Mann, and their parents are Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo return. We get to see the Clark and Ellen Griswold again, and insanity ensues as we come to expect, including a hilarious bit by Chris Hemsworth. I'm not quite sure. I think he's renting them like a bed and breakfast or or something. And his bit in the trailer, it's a Red Band trailer, folks. Don't watch this with your children around because it is one of the most hilarious lewd scenes I've seen in a very long time. So this is shot up to my toward the top of my summer must-see list. I am very excited to see this. I think it's going to be just hilarious and absolutely looking forward to it.
Chris Hemsworth's name is Stone Crandall. Let me just say, first of all, that I really believe Ed Helms was born to play this part.
He certainly seems it, doesn't he?
It is. I had no idea that he would grow up to be Rusty, and I will never see him any other way again.
Right.
It is so perfect. I'm very excited to see some other folks in the cast. Nick Kroll is one of my very favorite comedians, obviously from The Kroll Show, which is awesome and subversive. And, of course, The League, which I've mentioned on this thing. If you're not watching The League, it is also one of my very favorites. And Charlie Day. I love Charlie Day. And so glad to see him. Every time I see him, I laugh. So there are some, and Caitlin Olsen too. Charlie Day, Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it just looks great. Sam Levine, very funny people in this. They've just got a great cast beyond the headlining cast. It's just really fills out nicely with a lot of very funny people. So
it's a strong comedy cast.
Yeah, very really strong.
Fleshed it out well. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Keegan Michael Key. That's.
Right, yeah.
I can't wait. When does it hit? Not soon enough?
It comes out end of July 29th.
That's actually sooner than I thought.
Considering that, we're in mid-May here. It's moving fast.
Wow. That's great. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Mine, I didn't expect to do this one. I actually had another one. I was going to do what was it, like Gilbert or Gottfried or something. I can't remember what it was called. It's the Culkin, not Culkin. Who is the? Well, never mind. I'm not even going to do it anymore. So, but it looks really brooding. But then it came out. It's like been out for a while. Just hasn't gotten a theatrical release. So I gave up on that. And then I ran into Ricky and the Flash.
Mm-hmm.
This is Sebastian Stan, Meryl Streep, Kevin Kline. It's got some people in it that I like, but mostly I'm doing it for Rick Springfield because Rick Springfield is in it. Mm. And it was after I watched this trailer, which is a feel-good kind of a family coming back together kind of a story about an aging rock star mother who has abandoned her family, and now she has to come back and meet her family again, and deal with the pain that causes after having abandoned them. And it looks like there are some kind of sweet moments. I like the fact that Meryl Streep is doing something I have totally never seen her do. And that always I find entertaining, because it appears that there isn't something that I have never seen her do that she can't, as it turns out, do. And so this one I feel like is a fun test for the awesomely talented Meryl Streep. And then, it's from director Jonathan Demme. And, Jonathan Demme, right? I mean, there's some things in Jonathan Demme's past that I am a fan of. And then this is why I actually had to write you personally and apologize, because it's a Diablo Cody.
I knew that was why. I didn't know it was a Diablo Cody film, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's why Pete's apologizing to me.
Right? It's subversive, because tell me you didn't see the trailer and find yourself saying, curious.
Yeah, no, I did.
And then you saw that it was a Diablo Cody film, and I know you have a thing.
I feel like I'm changing a tune, or changing taking a corner. I haven't taken it yet, but I feel like, you know what? I need to give her a shot.
Okay, well, maybe this is going to be that film.
Maybe
it is.
Maybe. Although Jonathan Demme often disappoints as of late. Although I will say a little surprise tidbit that you may not know. But did you know I've worked on a film with Jonathan Demme?
That is a surprise tidbit. That may be bigger than a tidbit. Tell me about this. What did you work on with Diablo Cody?
With Jonathan Demme, you mean?
Yeah. Right, Jonathan Demme.
I have not
Jonathan Cody, Demme Diablo.
With Diablo Cody. Jimmy Carter, Man from Plains, his documentary following Jimmy Carter around while he was doing his book tour. I worked on that just briefly when they came through Phoenix on Carter's book tour, and I came on board and helped out, and it was kind of fun to work in the room with Demme it's funny seeing him. He's always been kind of the jumping between the documentaries and the feature films, and he kind of loves those styles. And he was running around with his little camera filming Carter in the bookstore as he was talking to people and everything. And it's crazy. It was an interesting book tour, because it's all about Palestine, and Carter is all about peace, and it just creates major crowds of people on both sides. And I think that's why Demme wanted to do this documentary, partly because it creates so much fervor on both sides of the aisle when you're dealing with Palestine. And it was a very interesting thing to kind of be a part of. It was only just for the Phoenix portion of it, but it was fun to be a part of it with Jimmy Carter and with Jonathan Demme. It was a neat little project.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
Man, you're full of them.
Full of it.
Have you seen... so Jonathan Demme has a lot of credibility for me based on his films from the 80s and early 90s.
Absolutely.
He's Silence of the Lambs. And, one of my very favorites... Have you seen Swimming to Cambodia?
I've not.
Oh, that is... It's... You know what? It's one of my very favorite film experiences. It's not quite a narrative film. It's definitely a documentary. It's Spalding Gray's experience working on the killing fields and, troubles of Cambodia and what goes on there. And so but much of it is just Spalding Gray's kind of talking tour, reading from a notebook on a table. And it is just such an incredibly powerful storytelling experience. I really love it. And that was a Jonathan Demme joint. So he's got some cred for me. So I give this one a chance. I think it might be worth checking out, or at least checking out the trailer for Ricky and the Flash. Comes out 7th of August, 2015.
Excellent.
Andy?
Yes?
I think we're all dead meat.
The world had been through a trial by fire, and only the greatest warriors and their deadliest enemies emerged from the flames.
Who are you?
Nobody.
Oh, mister, I can feel it. The dice are rolling.
He was the one they called mad.
But he's just a raggedy man.
But to those whose lives hung in the balance,
Where's the waiting ones? Waiting for what? Waiting for you.
he was the one they called hero.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Now, Mad Max is back in Beyond Thunderdome.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, 1985 action-adventure thriller. Picks up the story of Max Rockatansky, former Australian policeman, who is still dealing with the now slightly more post-apocalyptic challenges of the Australian landscape.
They never say that. They never say specifically, but this takes place 15 years after the second film.
Yes, okay, right.
Which makes a lot more sense because there really is no fuel anymore. I mean, when we first see him, he is in a car being pulled by camels.
Yes, that is right. And his hair is definitely 15 years longer.
It definitely is. Yeah, they don't really have any barbers. No need for barbers.
Right.
15 years later.
And so it's a little bit strange. It stars, obviously, Mel Gibson, newcomer to the series, Tina Turner, and Bruce Spence is back, although playing not the same character that he was playing in the last movie,
right?
As far as we know.
Or he's just a very forgetful guy.
Everybody is apparently very forgetful. Nobody recognizes anybody. So, yes. And how did it hold up for you?
This is a very problematic film for me.
Is that really how you're going to? You're so gentle.
No. Here's the thing. I like this film.
Whoa.
It's kind of like a guilty pleasure, sort of like. I don't think it's a very good film. I like so many things in this film that just don't work. And I wish that they had done it in a way that made it work, because I feel like it could have been so good. Like, I really feel like there's something here that just didn't come through. And it just ends up disappointing me, even though I can still look past it and I can still just enjoy the story of what's being told. But I mean, I think I mentioned it last week, and I think I was a little off in the whole thing with Byron Kennedy dying. It wasn't location scouting for this. He actually died a couple years before this. But from what it sounded like, George Miller was a little not quite in a place where he was wanting to just direct it by himself. And so he brought in George Ogilvie, a director that he had worked with on a TV series that they had done together called The Dismissal, I think. It was an Australian miniseries that dramatized the events of the 1975 Australian constitutional crisis. And yes. And,
sounds like a dream.
Sounds like a winner. But they worked together there, and I guess he liked him enough that he brought him on board to help him direct this. I guess they came up with some sort of like a rehearsal style or a kind of a directing shorthand on The Dismissal, and so Miller liked that and wanted to continue doing that with Ogilvie on Thunderdome. And so they ended up working together on it. I said last week that from what I read, Ogilvie directed most of the story parts of the film, and Miller came in to direct most of the stunts. I watched kind of a behind-the-scenes thing, and it kind of looks that way, but I do see Miller around all the time. So I think that he was still there. He may just not have been kind of the main point person. So I'm not quite sure, but I think that ended up creating some of the problems with the story. Like I said, I think it has so many interesting ideas. I love the idea of Bartertown and Auntie and Thunderdome and even the kids. I like the idea of them, but all of it ends up having problems that always makes me roll my eyes a little when I watch it.
And you are so gentle. Here's the thing. Mad Max, these films are, the whole series, right, is kind of intrinsically ridiculous because, it presumes the absolute worst in society, that after some sort of a massive calamitous fall, that we all will turn to our base criminal instincts, and that will, and what rises will be worse than what we had before, which by our own existence today is proof that would not happen, that we have an instinct to discover, new and innovative services, that when major calamitous things happen to us and happen to our communities, we find another way around. We are an ingenious species, and so it is just sort of a fantastical world, and you take Mad Max with a bit of ridiculousness because it's fun to look at this alternative potential horizon, right? It's fun culturally to put ourselves there, to think, what would I be like in this scenario, and to let ourselves kind of have that imagination. So I get that, and that's how I ascribe Mad Max 1 and 2. This film takes that hard-won alternative horizon, right? That reliably built itself in the first two films, that those films had earned so well, and it tosses it as far out the window as it possibly can. It's like Mad Max if it had been directed by your favorite, right, Luc Besson, and cast by Spielberg's Hook. You know what I mean? It is just a mashup that is terrible. It is terrible in every single way. It took me 3 days, Andy, to watch this movie because it was either too boring or too incredibly painful to watch that I actually had to stop for a cleansing breath. Wow. I have so few positive things to say about this film, and I'm stunned. I'm stunned in researching this film that I would go to the great Ebert, may he rest in peace, and I read the first paragraph of his stinking review. It says it's not supposed to happen this way. Sequels are not supposed to be better than the movies that inspired them. The third movie in a series isn't supposed to create a world more complex, more visionary, and more entertaining than the first two. Sequels are supposed to be creative voids, says the Ebert. But now here is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Not only the best of the three Mad Max movies, but one of the best films of 1985. 4 stars. My
put it on his
stomach
top 10
turns.
list, yeah.
This is a horrible excuse for a film and a betrayal of the series that spawned it.
Well, I think you're being harsh. I mean, I may be a little overly gentle, but I think you are being a little overly harsh.
Let me tell you, the thing I look forward to the most, my fantasy session of tonight, is to just see, because I think the real toss-up is, where will this film land next to Rush in my book?
Man, you are mean. Holy cow. It is nowhere near as bad as all that. I think there is a lot of really interesting things here. And I love this. I love that they found a way to kind of continue this world that takes place 15 years after everything else. People are still trying to scrap along. Now, this is an interesting one because this is the only time when they have actually mentioned a nuclear war.
Yes.
It's the only time that comes up. And we get this sense now that like there's nuclear fallout because the water salesman is trying to sell Max some water, and Max pulls out his handy little, what do you call those things? The little radiation reader, thing, Geiger counter. And I think that there's a really interesting society that they've created in this story, and like I said, I just wish that they found a way to work it better. And also, a big problem I have in this film is that it takes an hour and 22 minutes to get to Cars.
That is one. It's at the very top of my list of problems with the film. that it's a film with yes, it is. Yeah, that is horrible.
Yeah, but
then once it gets to cars, it doesn't really stay with cars very long.
It has a great car. I mean, it sticks with it. It has the final car chase.
Yeah, you're right. It's the car on rails thing.
Yeah, it's the train. It's cars, trains, motorbikes, and a plane.
And airplanes. Planes,
I liked the whole
and
mix-up.
Automobiles.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Ironically, another film better than Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I don't know if that's ironic.
You're right, not ironic at all.
So, I mean, okay, I love the idea. Well, how do you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk like any specifics? Do you want to talk about Thunderdome itself? Do you want to talk about characters? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to gripe about the most?
Really, pull it out of a hat, and I'll find a way to gripe about it. We could start with Thunderdome itself, which I think is it has been set up as the incredibly ingenious way to set up a fight.
Yeah, and it's pretty absurd.
It's really ridiculous.
It's the giant rubber band fighting, which, I mean, it makes me laugh. And I know that these films are not ones that are like meant to kind of be comical and stuff, but I don't know. I crack up in that fight. I think it's funny. Like guilty pleasure. What can I say? It just kind of gets so silly. And then at the end of it, when he's fighting Blaster and he takes the helmet off and he sees that it's just a mentally impaired boy under the helmet, basically, and he can't kill him. I mean, I like all of that. I think one of my biggest problems with the film is that, aside from the fact that Thunderdome isn't that strong, that it's so underused. Like, that's the only time we actually see Thunderdome for this element to be in the title. I know it's beyond Thunderdome, but I'd like to have seen some more Thunderdome action going on.
Really? I don't know how you could.
Not with the rubber bands.
Because I was going to say, the central premise of Thunderdome, this ridiculous rubber band bouncy house, was severed. And how could they possibly go on? Because clearly they've gone to the realm of vaudeville. You know where there's a Thunderdome? The Vancouver Mall. They have one right in the food court. And I make a joke that there's these bouncy rubber band things. I make a joke to my kids that one day I'll have to show them Thunderdome because I call it the Thunderdome. Right. And now I take that back because I'm never going to show my kids intentionally this movie. I'm going to try to burn it out of my computer.
Oh man.
It is you're right. The thing is ridiculous, but I think what you said in the beginning is accurate, that conceptually this idea of the dangerous kind of ring, the ring that poses danger in itself. The concept works so well in The Walking Dead, where they have essentially a Thunderdome, but it's not a full kind of dome. It's a ring of zombies on chains, and they put people in there to have a fight to the death. And if you fall out of the ring, then you're eaten by a zombie. So you're either dead in the ring or you're dead if you fall out of the ring. And I think that concept, which we see played out elsewhere, works really, really well. Here, I can't help but go back to the Luc Besson reference, like the way they cut to these character faces and go for the mugs and the eyes wide screaming there is no sense of intensity. It's just comedy. And that's why I think that sequence is illustrative of the fact that they didn't take this film as seriously as the last two, or at least portray it as seriously as the last two.
I agree. Do you think that, I mean, it's so hard to judge looking at another person's kind of life and their career, but based on where Miller ended up going after this, from this point forward, I mean, do you think that there is an element of him kind of looking back on some of the stuff that he did as a younger person and going, I don't feel like I am that storyteller anymore? I mean, he does the Twilight Zone movie, one of the best sequences in that movie, right before this. But then afterward, his tone seems to change quite a bit as a director. The Witches of Eastwick, which is kind of a horror comedy.
Lorenzo's Oil, which is straight up drama. Right. Babe Pig in the City, which is and this is where he gets into like the kid zone. Pig in the City, which is, I hated that. I thought it was terrible. Nothing like Babe. It was like a comic book movie is really what it was more, but aimed at
tots. I thought it was just terrible. And then the Happy Feet movies.
Right.
And so it seems like maybe he was, because my understanding of this film is that somebody presented this idea to him, or they were talking about this story idea of this life in this post-apocalypse where children were, having to survive on their own. And he really enjoyed that idea and was kind of developing it as a story. And then he hit on the idea, what if it was the next Mad Max film? And so he turned this idea of a story of children living in the post-apocalyptic era, and then brought Mad Max into it. And so it seems to me that he had already started latching, because I think the children portion of this is one of the weakest elements of the story. But it seems like he was already latching on to that as the direction that he wanted to go, and he wanted to be softer, and he wanted to maybe not be as edgy as he was in the first two films.
I think that is a great observation. I'd be interested to know, like, when children entered his life. Like, how old was he when kids of some sort kind of entered his life? You know what I mean? Because that may that may say something about it.
Well, it's like Steven Spielberg said, Close Encounters, he would never have been able to make that movie once he had a family, because he would never have been able to write or direct a film where the dad abandons his family and gets on a ship and goes into space with the aliens.
Right.
So it could be the same thing with George Miller.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's really something to that, because you can see such a direct trend. I mean, it's just like a switch was flipped, and he's suddenly making different kinds of films, and you can kind of see that in your own life, right? Kind of creatively, the things we were thinking about when we were writing kind of in high school, college, and just after college are very, very different in tone than the kinds of things we write now, and yet there is still some interest in finding a way to tell some of those big stories. Like you have this urge to come back around to some of these bigger things, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing in Fury Road. And I can't wait to see that as not just a continuation of a series that I love, but as almost a redemptive film for to tell a story that maybe he hasn't been able to tell, that's been sort of mulling around for many years, coming back to kind of basics or truth.
Well, we can talk about this more when we talk about Fury Road, but based on the fact that Tom Hardy's playing Max, he's still pretty young, and now knowing that there's this 15-year window between Thunderdome and Mad Max 2, I almost feel like Fury Road might take place in between the two, because there's still fuel. People are still driving around a lot, and they seem to be talking about fuel and dealing with all of that quite a bit still, at least based on the trailers. So I am curious to see how it's going to fall within this the storyline so far, because it doesn't seem like it's going to take place after Thunderdome.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I mean, Thunderdome's at a point where basically there is no fuel left, and the only fuel people are able to get is what they're making in the underworld here under Bartertown, made out of all of these pigs, the methane.
Hungry pigs.
Yeah. So, pig story.
Oh, okay.
They had 400 pigs on set.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sydney City Council actually said it was against health ordinances, and they had a Supreme Court injunction put against the filmmakers to stop them from doing this. But so the filmmakers ended up, I guess, I don't know if they had to go to court or whatever, but they ended up they were allowed to actually go ahead and use these 400 pigs in the scene in the underworld. But they had very specific rules that they had to abide by. Because everyone was concerned that all the people were going to get horribly sick. So all the crew who were working down there, they had to wear white plastic outfits with knee-high boots so that they wouldn't get any germs. Every time they went in and out, they had to go through giant troughs to get washed off and hosed down. They had to have special air extraction fans built into the set to get all this toxic air out all the time. And on top of that, they had to take care of 400 pigs.
Did you ever get a sense that there were actually 400 pigs on screen?
I don't know if I ever thought it was 400, but it sure looked like a lot of pigs.
It looked like a lot of pigs, but I didn't ever imagine more than 100 pigs.
I don't know. I mean, it's. I guess I wouldn't have imagined 400, but I would have imagined more than 100. I would have said maybe 150 or 200 tops.
Yeah, that's a lot of pigs, and that's a sign. That's just a sign that I feel like it stands against the cinematography. Like I feel like if they really have 400 pigs, let's find a way to really demonstrate 400 pigs. To make it like, why don't we try to make it look like 1,000 pigs rather than have 400 and only make it look like 200?
Yeah, no, that's very smart. Yeah, and I think that is something that I would say I would pin to George Ogilvie. I don't think. I mean, we know Dean Semler knows how to shoot. He's a great cinematographer. He did a great job on The Road Warrior. This is a case where he's working a lot more, I'm guessing, in this particular place with George Ogilvie. And from looking at his resume, looks like much more of just a TV director. And so it makes me think that he just didn't have the vision to direct it in a way where Semler was able to capture it the way that would have made it stronger.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like that is that is very much an impression that resonates with me, that this feels like a TV movie. I don't get the sense of stakes. I don't get the sense of intensity. I don't get the sense of substance. All the sets, everything feels like a set. It feels like I'm watching people parade around on a set until the big sort of finale car, train, automobile chase, airplane chase. That suddenly gets back to a little bit of the kind of metal and strength and just raw muscle that I have come to expect from the series. So it gets better, even though it still comes off as sort of limp. In the end, I still feel like the set is at least something that is substantive and feels strong.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the costumes because that's something that we always seem to talk about.
I liked the costumes, except for their hair, but I like the costumes.
What's up with the hair? God,
I don't know.
The hair was ridiculous everywhere.
It just, the hair strikes me as straight out of the 80s, and that was one of those decisions that they went with because it, big hair, late 80s or mid 80s, I don't know. I just think that's why they did it that way, but I kind of have to forgive them slightly, but not that much.
No, you really don't. It was bad, and at least there was some sense of again redemption when they actually cut Mel's hair off. That felt good.
Yeah,
Tina was not great on the hair.
I mean, Toe Cutter had great big hair, but there was something about his hair that just worked a lot better.
It fit.
Yeah.
But the costumes in general, hers, what's her name? Anti-Entity. I found her. I mean, I get it. There is a place for the matron, the strong matron who runs civilization, right? She is the maternal figure, the strong kind of maternal figure, and that fits for me. I found her outfit was super distracting. They tried to just sex up a full-length dress of chainmail, which was ridiculous. Although Tina as an actress, I found okay. I thought it was pretty good.
I think she's fine in the film. She's definitely not something that's ever bugged me. In all the things that do bug me, I have an easy time watching her, and I look past her look. I will say about the costumes in this film. I like we talked about last week. I like the way that they kind of have them fit with, okay, if there was this big thing that happened, you're going to end up just kind of stuck wearing the same crappy clothes that had been around at that particular time. 15 years later, however, I feel that nobody is going to be making these fancy chainmail dresses. It's like, it seems like an awful lot of work for somebody to actually sit and do just to please Auntie.
Right.
I appreciate the ragged, rough outfits a lot more than I do that particular outfit.
What did you think of the power balance in Bartertown between Anti-Entity and Master Blaster?
It's one of those elements that I like, that there is this battle between the people above ground and the people below ground. I don't think it completely works. Part of that is because I just find the two parts of the Master Blaster a little campy. But I don't know. I still like the idea of the power imbalance. It's just, yeah. I don't think they quite hit it.
I also don't think that they hit it. I also don't. The Master, the top part of Master Blaster, played by Angelo Rosito, he came in at only 2 feet 11 inches tall. But I think he is a fantastic character actor. And I think he was woefully misused in this film. I thought that making him, he just was not able to pull off the cadence of language, I think, that she needed him to speak in. And as a result, he came off as a lampoon. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
He was very problematic, the way that his dialogue was. I mean, I do like the concept of this little person who survives as the ruler of Underworld because of this big person that is kind of his slave. I think that's a really fascinating concept that just didn't work at all. And you're right. I mean, his dialogue is just painful to listen to. It's just so dumb and lumbering, and it doesn't fit for somebody who's supposed to be the brains of the operation. It's like he talks like he's never been taught to talk.
Yeah. Insipid, really. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, the one thing about Angelo Rosito that I think is awesome, though, is that he has been around forever. He was in Todd Browning's Freaks from, what was that, like 1932?
32, yep.
Yeah, I mean, he has been around. He's been acting since 1927, and just was in films with Bela Lugosi and just Lon Chaney, John Barrymore, just one of those guys who's been around for a very long time, and this was really kind of his last big opportunity. So I think that is super, super cool.
I agree. I think it was a treat to see him in here. It feels a little bit like, I don't know. It's hard to say, and I wasn't paying much attention to the popularity of Angelo Rosito when this movie came out, but it's hard to say that it was stunt casting, but it certainly seemed like there was some knowing in casting Angelo in this role. It was a little bit frustrating. I don't know, the pairing of Master Blaster I thought was, again, you said it, the concept is interesting, the execution is stupid.
Yeah. And Angelo and Tina both, I think, ended up being a part of this film because this was the first of the trilogy that actually had American funding. The American financing behind it led to more Americans being cast in it. That's why Tina Turner ended up in this, and I'm guessing Angelo as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So who actually... so this is produced by... This is what, Warner Brothers?
Yeah, I think Warner Brothers wanted to just jump on board and brought some money into it. I'm assuming it was Warner Brothers. I don't know if there was a different private investor who came on board as well, but considering that George Miller is listed as the producer, it must have just been just a deal with Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Boy, it does feel like a 1980s American film, doesn't it? It opens to open with that horrible pop tune. During the
One of the Living
credits, yeah, it was just terrible. There were some, we made this point last week about the allusion to The Man with No Name, and in this one they really hang a flag on it. The announcer, that sort of game show host of Thunderdome, he introduces Max as the man with no name, walking out of the desert,
right.
The man with skills, and so I thought that was interesting. What'd you think about from the Thunderdome after they cut the rubber bands and knock the helmet off? We get the break the deal, face the wheel, where Max is tossed out into the desert with a giant mannequin head stuck on his head, riding a backward horse, and off he rides.
Is it a backward horse? Who's backward in that situation?
You have a good point. That is an excellent point. He is backward. The horse is not. Either way, you get to the same place.
Yes, exactly. Which also feels very Man with No Name. It reminded me of Clint Eastwood sitting on the horse. Actually, no, I guess it was Tuco, right? Who's sitting on the horse with the noose around his neck, and is just trying to keep the horse from riding away. It had that sort of feel to it, and I like the visual of him in the desert with this giant mannequin head on backwards, or paper mache head sort of thing on backwards. I think it's a very interesting visual. I don't think it. I hate the whole, face the wheel thing. I think that's kind of silly.
Yep.
But and the fact that a monkey is brought along to kind of carries the water out to
monkey.
him. Yeah, this is water monkey.
I wrote that. I drew a little monkey in my notes. It's the water monkey.
It's like the water boy.
I also drew the happiest pig right next to it, and it says "hungry" in a little cloud bubble. My notes are awesome.
They are. The monkey, I think it's funny, was not actually a trained monkey.
Just a lucky one.
Yeah, just lucky to be in this. And apparently was really good at doing what is told when they weren't filming. And as soon as they started filming, the monkey would just basically sit there and jump up and down. And just like, it's one of those monkey things. You could picture it just kind of bobbing up and down. And I saw some outtakes of the monkey, and it's just so funny because every time they're trying to get it to do something, it just stops and it just starts doing the up and down thing again. It's very funny. So I don't know. That, the camels, the pigs, they really, and then 52 kids also. I mean, they had a lot of, I don't know why they put themselves through with animals and kids, making it hard on themselves. And then I thought it was so funny because is it just me, or when Mel is coming out of the desert, it looks like he's kind of trying to protect the monkey. He stuffs the monkey in his coat as he's walking through the sandstorm. And then he collapses on his chest.
On the monkey.
On the monkey. And we never see the monkey again, right?
I never saw the monkey again, no.
Yeah, I was like, did the monkey come to the kid's place? But I don't think the monkey did. I think he crushed the monkey.
I think he crushed the monkey. But that's okay, because he has really a thing for like not feeling anything about losing creatures or children in the desert. So he crushes the monkey. His horse gets swallowed up by the sand.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
By the earth. And then a child gets swallowed by the earth. And that is just completely forgotten within 50 frames.
Yeah. Well, he's mad.
He's mad. It was, it was not great.
It was dark. It was definitely dark. But
let's talk just a little bit about the environmental setting, can we?
Yeah.
Because we're out in the desert, and I am not an environmental scientist. I'm not. I am cynical, and I am rage-filled about this movie, but I'm not a scientist. So, how is it possible that these kids have found home in a cloud forest, and they are what appears to be about 200 paces from the Australian outback? Does that exist?
Well, it's like an oasis. I mean, there are spots where water, pools, or there's a little area of water, or a river runs through it, and then all around it is just desert. I mean, I think that's possible. I mean, it's like living in Phoenix. I mean, there's desert everywhere, but when you get close to one of the riverbeds, all of a sudden there's just a lot of green and life kind of all along the river. But then, you walk 50 feet away from that and it's just dry desert again. So
I thought that because there's an In-N-Out burger near there.
Well, that too.
I found that more difficult to believe because it just was. It felt like such a large oasis
Well,
to me. Maybe you're right. Maybe that does exist. Again, I am not an environmental scientist. It felt like a bridge too far to me.
Well, and this goes to another problematic area I have with the film is that, okay, they're not that far apart, but the kids and Bartertown.
It was about 20 minutes.
I would think that in all the people coming and going from Bartertown, theoretically, I guess there's people coming and going from Bartertown, somebody's going to stumble across this oasis these kids have. Mm-hmm. And everybody from Bartertown is going to go, hey, let's move there because that looks way better than where we're living. and either kick these kids out or make them be their little slaves or something. These kids have it so good. And they're like, oh, we're waiting for the guy to come from the sky and take us away from here. It's like, why would you want to leave? You are in the perfect little paradise. You are the only people to have found paradise, and you want to escape it to go live in the city, which is destroyed, so that you can hang out in the empty buildings. Like it's just nonsense. I mean, they should be in the empty buildings trying to get to an oasis.
Well, kids. Here's the thing. Kids,
never happy.
Right. Here's the thing with the kids. So Mad Max 1, this is what I call the Mad Max heartstring continuum. So in Mad Max 1, they pull our heartstrings because of the relationship with Max and his wife and child, which is just really, I think, great. I've talked about that before. I won't belabor it. In Road Warrior, they try to pull on the heartstrings because of the community connection. It's no longer really the family connection, the explicit family, but the implicit family that comes from helping a community to achieve something else great, right? So that's kind of in the middle. So, if you imagine it a teeter-totter, right, the family one really pulls at the heartstrings, and that's just, and then right in the middle is the Road Warrior, and heartstrings aren't really all that pulled, but you get it. And this one, what role are the kids supposed to play? To me, they're on this heartstring continuum, which is the sledgehammer of heartstrings. So now it's not just one kid and your wife, it's all the kids, and they need a daddy, and you're going to be the surrogate daddy in the middle of the oasis, in the middle of the desert. And it totally fails on that front because, like Master and his incredibly labored language, they give these kids this labored language that does not fit their mouths, and it just falls flat hearing them speak and tell these stories. It's not natural. It's not a natural patois that I could ever quite wrap my head around. It always felt like kids playing on a stage.
It's terrible. It's painful to listen to. It's nonsense. I can't stand listening to the kids. I really don't like the kids. Everything having to do with the kids, I just don't like in this film. I would much rather just have the whole thing be in Bartertown in the underworld.
I think I think that's it, because this really, and hearing you talk about how this was originally conceived as a standalone story, I can totally see that. Like, I can see these as two separate movies, and I think if you really gave it the time to breathe, of course.
Solar Babies.
They sort of did that in Solar Babies, or dare I say, Lord of the Flies. I mean, we get what happens when kids are left to their own devices. But this is an interesting setting, and you're telling it in a new and insightful way. I would love to see Mad Max with children, but this wasn't it.
No, and I do. Again, I really enjoy the idea of these kids speaking their own language, because 15 years after the Road Warrior, and 5 years, this is another thing I learned, Road Warrior takes place 5 years after Mad Max. So it's been 20 years since the war.
Right, so this is a generation that hasn't lived with civilization.
Yeah, and so they've grown up, and they've made up their own language, and the words that they don't remember, they just kind of create new ones. And to that end, I think it's a really fascinating idea. It just never works. And
it fails on that front, the Mad Max heartstring continuum. Just falls flat off a cliff. We've been talking about this movie for an hour. What else do you have on your list? Because I'm going to poke my eyes out.
Because I can't take it anymore. I want to just go jump into Thunderdome.
Put me in the Thunderdome.
Put me in. Maurice Jarre did the score for this, his first foray with the Mad Max series, taking over for Brian May. his music has a little more thematic stuff going on. I like some of the stuff that he's done in some of his bigger films, notably Lawrence of Arabia, one of his biggest ones, and also Ghost, I think, is one that he's very well known for. Dr. Zhivago, Passage to India.
Solar Babies.
He's done some big things. He didn't do Solar Babies, did he?
Most certainly did.
Did he? Oh, he did. Oh, that's awesome. That is so fantastic. Oh, wow. But I kind of like some of his themes in here. It's not one of my favorites, but none of the music in these films have ever overwhelmed me. But I do think they work in context, and so I'll give him that. Yeah,
I was so distracted by the Tina Turner pop tunes in it that the music just kind of washed over me.
It's just the beginning and the end.
It is. But it was a bookend of pain. Bookends of pain.
Really? I love We Don't Need Another Hero.
What?
I
Andy?
love that song. I do. Total guilty pleasure.
Oh,
I don't know.
Goodness.
I think I don't know what it is. I just love that song. Just always have.
Is your left arm numb? I think you might be having some sort of an event.
That's right. I am. Richard Francis Bruce came on to do the editing. We've talked about him before, I believe, haven't we? 7?
Yeah, 7, right?
I think he is somebody that's
Divergent.
Divergent,
yeah.
He's somebody that's done quite a lot of stuff and has worked with George Miller a few times. This is his first time working with George Miller. And, I don't think it's... I guess there's nothing to write home about, but I do think that the editing in the stunt scenes I think it works really well. And to that end, George Miller had a quote about the way that stunts are done, and I thought it was pretty good because he's like, I think people think that stunts are more, it's the spectacle of the stunts, and quite often that's not the case. You need a very good stunt, but it's the shots that lead up to it, the little pieces of film that you join together to give you the illusion of something happening. That's probably more important. And watching some of the behind-the-scenes stuff of this, it really did put it into context for me because you get so used to watching some of these amazing stunt scenes that they're doing in these films, and you kind of forget that at the pace at which films get made, and you forget how tedious it is to set up one little movement of something happening just to kind of blow up a car or to have something have somebody fall. And it's all of those other shots that they bring together to actually create that stunt to make it so alive on the screen. And so I do give Richard Francis Bruce quite a bit of credit for that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The number of cameras, the number of shots to pick up a second of footage to end up in a 15 or 20 second sequence that is mind-blowing is mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The
plane that Jebediah is flying is a very funky film made by Transavia Agricultural, I guess. It's a little agricultural survey craft, and it's just unique to Australia, these little tiny planes. And I have never seen them anywhere else, and I think it's so fun seeing this funky little plane flying around.
You know what? I think it's a clown plane.
They sure seem to fit a lot of people into it.
They fit like 20 kids running across the desert in the belly of this little tiny plane. And it turns out it was just overweight by one Mel Gibson.
By one Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Then let's see. 2 more things, I think. This was just a funny quote from Tina Turner about this film. I think you'll appreciate quite a bit. Tina, in the making of, had this to say about the film. I feel like I've done the greatest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Thank God none of your fans agreed.
Oh, Tina.
Jeez, Tina.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, yes, so there's that. And then I guess there are 2 more things. One of the last 2 things. I love the movie poster for this. Richard Amsel did the poster design for this, and he's done some really cool posters. Just like he did the Flash Gordon poster, that's so cool. He did the original Raiders of the Lost Ark poster. I just love his stuff, and despite what you think about this film, I love the design of the poster. I think it has a really just a beautiful, exotic look. And even with Tina's hair taking up almost like the top half of the poster, I just think it is a sweet, sweet poster.
Okay. I'm looking at it. You know, it is. I get it. It reminds me of Star Trek 5, was it the Undiscovered Country?
That's 6.
Or 6. What was the Search for God?
That was 5.
That was 5. What was it called? That was the forgettable one.
The Final Frontier?
Final Frontier. Yeah. That's what I think of when I see this, because it has all the, and I don't know, I'm not looking at the Final Frontier poster right now. It may not be looks like that at all, but that's what I see.
Yeah.
That's see. Possible. Look at the kid. Look at the Lost Boys. Aren't they cute? Where's Peter?
I know.
With the handheld crossbow. What an amazingly inefficient weapon.
It's very tiny.
It's practically Nerf.
It is a little Nerf. It's awesome.
It's just
so funny.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And then the last little thing I wanted to say is they filmed the train stuff on. There's one train track that cuts across the outback in Australia, and it's the only one, to my understanding, that goes right through there. At least it was at the time. And they were, and there are a lot of trains that go on this, and they actually had to time all of the stunts with the train just right so that they could actually get the shots, and then they had to take everything off the tracks as quick as they could so that the trains could continue running. And because of that, they actually were able, they kept having these situations where they'd get to a point where all of a sudden, like, oh, we're going to have to abandon it. They have to take everything off the tracks to let the trains go by, and then they'd have to come back the next day and try it again, which I think it seems like a horribly inefficient way to do it. But when you want to shoot a train track in the outback, that's really the only way. And I only really wanted to bring this up because when I was a kid, my mom, who is from Australia, took us on a trip across Australia on this very train track. And so I had to confirm this with her. I'm like, did we actually take the train track through the outback? And she's like, yes, we did. And she's like, don't you remember all the kangaroos jumping around? I'm like, I don't remember that at all, but I know I took the train track. And so I like to think that it happened to be around this time. I'm sure it was years apart, but in my head now, I just want to envision that vehicles ready to blow up were just waiting off of the tracks, waiting for us to go by so that they could go out and film it.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
Yes, and it's my last. So
I say we talk about money.
This film, considering it was the big American-funded one, and had a big $10 million budget, which at the time, now it's about 21.7, so a decent budget for a big post-apocalyptic stunt movie, ended up grossing only in the U.S. about $36.3 million, and in Australia, not quite $3 million. It didn't make a ton of money, but it still made its money back. It's the least grossing of the three. It ended up making about $592,000 per finished minute. So, it still did okay for itself. It's just not up there with the other two.
Yeah, probably did too well. Just let that sink in.
It was the mid 80s. People liked watching this sort of stuff. I loved it when I first saw it whenever I rented it.
I think that's probably true because I think this may be one that I saw in the theater.
Well, this was PG-13. The other two were R, yeah. So this was the first one that either of us probably could have seen.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing it. And I think I was so excited that I saw it in the theater that I probably loved it at the time. But I was young and so stupid that I would have really liked this one. And I probably liked it for the little kid on the end standing on the berm where they covered the tracks with dirt.
Right.
He says, "This is a stick-up," with his giant guns. And then I really loved that little kid.
Yes, he was funny.
Let's rank it. Let's see what happens.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and seriously, you have to rank this movie in your own collection and see how it stacks up, because I have just been cruising Amazon reviews and I am blown away by the number of 4 and 5 star reviews for this film. I feel like I'm on another planet, that we're just not seeing the same movie. That so many people say this is great, this is the best of the three, this is so exciting. I am blown away. So I please rank this and see how it compares with our ranking. And oh dear, Andy, you and I are going to have to come to words if this is better than anything else on our list right now.
Well, first up, this should help. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or Mad Max?
Oh,
I think we can both safely say Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or Gattaca?
Gattaca.
I will say Gattaca. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or Cloverfield?
Also, I will say Cloverfield.
So will I.
I think I can hear the whistling of wind due to an object falling from a great height.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or The Dead Zone?
The Dead Zone.
I really had problems with that this time around.
Yeah.
I would actually... Well, would I do Mad Max Beyond? This is one where I have problems with both of these films.
And you know what? You don't have to watch either of them ever again, but really... Seriously?
If I'll go The Dead Zone, because there is a stronger character element at the end of the film.
There you go.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or Scoop? I will wholeheartedly do Thunderdome here. Scoop was terrible. There was nothing.
Scoop was not good. But
Scoop was not good.
It had ScarJo.
Yeah, in possibly one of her worst films ever.
Doesn't matter.
You've got to at least give it to Thunderdome for at least the concepts.
You know, what's funny is I totally don't. I can't. I just can't. Are you ready?
I can't believe you're picking Scoop over this.
Like the last, Andy, I don't ever have to watch either one of these again, but this was a terrible film.
Oh. All right. Well, we'll do it, but I
can't believe we're rock, paper, scissors watering
over Scoop. I can't believe we're doing it over Scoop. Oh, I can't either. I think that you got to give it a little bit.
All right, fine.
But okay.
No, you know what? For you, I will give it to you. You can have it.
At least, just think of at least the last
for the kid. For the little kid.
The 10-15 minutes of the last chase scene. At least there was something
I don't even
visceral.
necessarily have to for that, because you know why? Let me tell you why. Because crazy warlord guy who has the second head on a stick attached to his first head, when he grabs the thing and is hanging off the side of the train, he's actually saying ooh ooh and blowing on his fingers alternately because it's hot. He's actually ooh, ooh, ooh.
I don't think he was doing that.
He was doing that. It is.
I have to go watch that again to see if he's doing that, because I don't recall that at all.
And then they saw it off, and it was like straight out of a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. It was insufferable.
Oh man! All right.
I give it to you because we're friends, and I don't want this to mess with our relationship. But it's terrible.
Okay, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or Marty?
Marty, and I hated Marty.
I know you did. I'll go with Marty because I liked Marty. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or The Hospital?
The Hospital.
I would do Thunderdome. We're going to have to rock, paper, scissors this
fine.
one. Ready?
1, 2, 3. Paper. 1, 2, 3. Scissors. 1, 2, 3. Scissors. 1, 2, 3. Water. Water, Russ, scissors.
Oh, I think I win when someone throws water in again. Oh my
Water
goodness.
is in your eyes, and it's from a toilet. So you live with that. You can have your Thunderdome, but you also have toilet water in your face.
Oh, toilet water. All right, look at that. this has ended up below Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. There's a problem with that. I really have a problem with that.
You know what? I'm going to tell you straight up, Andy, I don't have a problem with that. I honestly wanted a showdown between this and Rush. This was a terrible experience, but I loved our conversation. This was great fun.
It was fun. It's at 177 out of 184, so it is in the bottom, definitely in the bottom ranking here.
All right. I think it should be no surprise where we go next.
Yes, this is quite exciting. We are going to hit the theaters and catch a little Mad Max Fury Road.
I'm very excited.
Are you going to see it in 3D?
Is it
fake
real?
3D.
It's fake 3D. No, I probably won't then. I have come to terms with the fact that I'm done. I'm just sort of done with the 3D. It'll all be based on time. If that's the only time I can do it. But my intention is just to see it on the nicest theater we have.
Yeah, I think that's my goal as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I wonder if it's Atmos. I may have to try to catch it in Atmos if it's going to be.
You know what would be great? Our only Atmos theater is in the mall where there is the Thunderdome.
That's hilarious.
So I may actually need to do that just to be there.
That would be really fun to go play in the Thunderdome.
And then go see Mad Max.
Then go see.
All right, so Andy. Funny. I got to go to bed.
All right. I'm going to go hop in the Thunderdome. I need some rubber band exercise.
Yeah, the emphasis is good. You could hop in the Thunder, or you could go hop in the Thunderdome.
Or hop in the Thunderdome.
You're a complex character, Andy Nelson.
So mine's a 5-star by Bobby Called, who just has this to say. This is my most favorite in the trilogy. The first two are more violent. This one has more comedy and adventure as well. Great actors.
Because really, by number 3, comedy and adventure is what was missing from the Mad Max trilogy.
Exactly. That's what we needed.
Mine is a 1-star from Victor Marshall, and I am ashamed that you and I did not make this connection. His review, 1-star. It is not a real Mad Max movie, is the title of his review.
Okay.
Mad Max and Road Warrior were brilliant essays on society's need for a hero and the inevitable triumph of a society that has a hero. Hollywood needed a way to package the Mad Max franchise and present it to an American audience, and Tina Turner had a hit album out back when the movie was made, so Thunderdome seemed like a good idea to the accountants on the committee that made this movie. Interesting to note that the We Don't Need a Hero Tina Turner song was in this movie, so I guess any Mad Max movie in which a hero is needed, that's a good movie. It's also interesting to compare Mad Max Road Warrior to Lethal Weapon, in which they do talk about actually needing a hero. In fact, many of the scenes in Lethal Weapon are extremely similar to scenes in Mad Max Road Warrior if you change the clothes on the actors are wearing and the setting. Just change Max Rokitansky's reflexes for Riggs' shooting accuracy, and you can see that the Mad Max franchise was successfully repackaged as the Lethal Weapon franchise. So go buy Mad Max, Road Warrior, Lethal Weapon, or Lethal Weapon 4. But Thunderdome is dross.
Wow.
He's totally right. Right?
He's completely wrong about Lethal Weapon 4.
Yeah, no. But I agree with that. But about the hero thing, I thought that was fairly amusing. That was a great connection. Kind of funny. Yeah. Any Mad Max film in which we need a hero, that's going to be a good movie. If we don't need another hero, it's not even Mad Max.
Then what's the point?
Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe's series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.